The final method that you can use for graphing your for making a linear graph is to find the x-intercepts and y-intercepts of an equation. So here I have instructions for finding each. So to find the x-intercept, you must set y equal to 0. And think about it, the x-intercept is where the graph intersects the x-axis. And everywhere along the x-axis, your y, realize it's 0, right? The x-axis goes through the y-axis at y equals 0. So if you want to figure out where the line crosses the x-axis, all you have to do is set y equals to 0 and then solve for x. So here's an example right here. So we had y equals negative 3x minus 4, and we want to find the x-intercept. Well, we're going to set y equal to 0, and then we rearrange the equation until we find an x. So here we added 4 to both sides, and then we divided both sides by negative 3. We get a fraction, and fractions are okay. So negative 4/3 equals x. And I would recommend whenever you get a fraction, especially when you can't, when it's not a terminating decimal, do not change it to a decimal. Leave it in fraction form. So we know that 4/3 is not a terminating decimal, so leave it as 4/3. And here is our second example. So here we want to find the y-intercept. So you find a y-intercept by setting x equal to 0. And same thing, if you want to know where the graph crosses the y-axis, notice that the y-axis intersects the x-axis at x equals 0. So if we set y equal to 0, x equals 0, we're going to figure out where this line crosses the y-axis. So we can take the same equation, we'll do the same thing, and this time we're going to make x equal to 0. And then we get y by itself, but this is pretty simple because when x is equal to 0, we're really left with this constant. And if we recall from the y equals mx plus b format, the constant is always your y-intercept. So you probably didn't even, if it's in this format right here, you don't even have to substitute. You could probably right away know that it's negative 4. And then your final answer will be 0, negative 4. Notice that we included a full coordinate for both of these. So we don't just write this value, right? We don't find this and stop there. We have to write the full coordinate. So your x-intercept is negative 4/3, 0, and your y-intercept is 0, negative 4. So now this is your chance. So I want you to find the x and the y-intercepts. We're not going to have a chance to sketch in this program, but you can create a sketch for yourself just to check. At this point, you should have already taken time to find the intercept. So I'm going to just walk through the solution and you can check your work. So for the x-intercept, and I'm just going to abbreviate it, we're going to set y equal to 0. So I'm going to just put in words, set y equal to 0. So here, we're going to get 0 equals negative 3/4 x plus 3. And then we're going to solve for x. So I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to, remember our PEMDAS too, right? So I'm going to undo my addition or subtraction first. Right, I'll get negative 3 equals negative 34 x, and then I'm going to do the opposite here. So I'm multiplying by negative 34. I'm going to divide by negative 34. So these cancel out, and I'm left with, and my negatives are going to cancel out too, right? Negative divided by negative gives me a positive. So I'm going to have 3 over 34 equals x. And there's not much I can do to reduce it, so I'm going to leave this right here. Now I'm going to find, I'm going to leave this here, but then I have to remember to write my coordinate. I'm about to break my own rule. So my final answer is 334, 0. So my y-intercept, here I'm going to set my x equal to 0. So in this equation, I'll have y equals negative 34 times 0 plus 3. And we can quickly see that's going to leave us with y equals 3. Because negative 34 times 0 is 0. So I can write my my y-intercept as x equals 0, comma, 3. So now I have both my x and my y-intercepts, and if you want, you can quickly sketch. So if we were to sketch it, and this is a very rough sketch, I would actually do something like this. So 3 over 34, that's going to be a pretty small number. So if this were, I don't know, that was 1, negative 1, I'm going to make this go up to 5 and negative 5. I know that this is going to be something like this, and that's not even half, that's a really small, something like here. And then we have 0 and 3, something like here. So it's going to be a pretty steep line. Put some arrows here. It will look something like this. And you can just kind of label it with the points. And that would be a reasonable sketch. Probably should do other colors too.